Okay, it is now 11:05 and we are going to get this presentation underway. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the MARCS Tower Pilot Program Grantee Conference. My name is Peter Voderberg and I am the Chief of Broadband Ohio. Before we begin, I want to go over just a few quick housekeeping items. Today, only presenters will have the capability of unmuting for the conference. If you have a question, please type it into the chat box. We will be addressing your questions at the end of the conference. If we cannot get to all of your questions, we will be addressing them in an updated version of the FAQ for the grant. I also wanted to inform everyone that we are recording this conference and it will be posted on the website for the grant. This grant is a partnership between Broadband Ohio, which is a part of the Development Services Agency, and the Department of Administrative Services. At this time, I would like to introduce Craig Forbes to introduce himself and the team from the Department of Administrative Services. Craig?
Thanks, Peter, and good morning, everyone. I'm Craig Forbes, and I'm the Chief of Staff at DAS. And as I'm sure you all are aware, DAS administers the multi-agency radio communication system for the state of Ohio. And we're excited to utilize the MARCS towers to help expand broadband across Ohio, and we appreciate the partnership with Peter and his team at Broadband Ohio. Now, I'd like to introduce two other members of the DAS team. First is Katrina Flory, and she is the Deputy State CIO. And then we also have Rick Schmall, who is the MARCS Program Director. They'll be sharing some more information about this program in just a bit. And finally, I would also like to thank all of you for joining us on this call to learn more about this grant opportunity. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Craig. Before going into the details of the grant, I wanted to take a moment to talk about Broadband Ohio, which is an office within the Development Services Agency that is dedicated to bringing high-speed internet to every Ohioan, regardless of where they happen to live. Broadband Ohio was formed in March of last year to tackle the task of expanding high-speed internet to every corner of the state. Broadband Ohio is dedicated to two principles. The first is bringing high-speed internet access to every Ohioan, regardless of where they happen to live. That doesn't mean that every Ohioan will want to have internet access, but we want to make sure that no matter where you live, you will have at least one provider who can give you speeds that meet the federal definition of high speed, which is currently set at 25 megabits per second download speed and 3 megabits per second upload. The second is building a best-in-class broadband network in the state. That doesn't mean we want Ohio to own the network. What it means is that the service is reliable and dependable wherever you happen to be. Broadband Ohio is technology and provider neutral and supports innovators that are looking at new ways of getting internet out into the community. Our broadband expansion package of initiatives supports public-private collaboration, requires state and local buy-in, and values community involvement. I'm joined today by my Assistant Chief Patrick Smith, and I wanted to thank all of you for attending this morning to learn about this exciting opportunity of locating on the MARCS towers. I now want to hand this presentation over to Katrina Flory from the Department of Administrative Services, who will talk a little bit about the MARCS towers and why they are available at this time. Katrina?
Thank you, Peter. Happy to be here this morning. Good morning to everyone. So the MARCS system infrastructure includes towers that are across the state of Ohio. So if you're driving around, you'll see some of our towers from the highway, or if you're in Southeast Ohio especially, you'll see a number of our towers. And up until fairly recently, use of the towers by private entities was limited due to the tax-exempt nature of the bonds that we used to build them. Under IRS law, we were held to a 10% private payment restriction. So recently, the state defeased the original bonds and refinanced with taxable bonds. So this opened up the opportunity for more private use. Of course, after meeting some of our other structural requirements that I think we're going to touch on here later, but this whole defeasance process actually saved money for Ohio taxpayers because of the competitive rates that were available on the bonds, as well as giving us the opportunity to open them up for other uses such as this broadband expansion project. So we're really excited about this and look forward to working with you guys. Thanks, Peter.
And thank you, Katrina. So now that we know why you can locate on the towers, the question is, what are we offering? The Development Services Agency is offering a grant to allow an internet service provider to have space on 6 MARCS towers. 4 of them are located in Scioto County, and 2 of the towers are located in Jackson County, which are highlighted right now on the map. Their specific locations, including their latitude and longitude, as well as their height, can be found on the website for the grant program. We chose these towers because they are owned by the state and are on state-owned land. They are also in areas that we know have some issues with internet connectivity. While there are 6 towers altogether, you can apply to be on all of them or just one, and any combination in between. You're not required to apply for the entire suite of them. You can apply for as many as you think you might be able to use. Just know that it is the desire of the state to have applicants for all of these towers, and we will take that into consideration when considering grant requests. So what are you applying for on these towers? Put simply, winning grantees will have their co-location fees waived for 5 years. That means free space on an existing tower for 5 years. We've estimated that this is worth at least $5,000 a month if you factor in the cost of constructing these towers yourselves. While winning applicants will not have to pay for the space on the tower for 5 years, there are a few things that an applicant will have to negotiate with the Department of Administrative Services. I'm now going to hand it over to Rick Schmall, who is going to talk a little bit about what an applicant will have to work on with DAS separately. Rick?
Well, thank you, Peter, and thank you for everybody. So yeah, the different requirements are on the different towers because every tower is different. The heights vary. The loading that we already have on the towers can vary. We require that any co-locators do not take the tower over 80% loading and capacity. And the reason for that is because we need to be able to make sure that we can quickly add any equipment that MARCS might need to serve public safety, which is the original purpose of MARCS. But again, now that the bonds have been refinanced, as Katrina spoke about, we welcome other use of the towers. It's a shame that they're out there sitting with capacity. But if the equipment, not knowing what you are going to submit to provide the broadband, we don't know and can't answer specifics about whether your equipment would need to have any kind of structural enhancements made to the towers. Same thing as it applies to the electrical needs. You know, obviously, if you're going to put some cellular equipment up there, it's going to be more than if you put up a router of some sort of Wi-Fi device. It's entirely up to the evaluation of the grant and what you are going to submit as equipment. We will look at everything individually and determine at that point whether any work needs to be done. We have people on staff that are able to work with you and determine those needs and are happy to do so. Thank you, Peter.
And thank you, Rick. I appreciate it. So the first question you may have is, what happens after 5 years? At this point, the Development Services Agency and the Department of Administrative Services are contemplating the possibility of renewal depending upon the success of the program. If this program is providing high-speed internet at low costs to these communities, we will explore with the winning grantees the possibility of continuing on with the grant. However, if the grant does conclude at the end of the 5-year period, the state will determine the market rate for space on the tower and will enter into an agreement with the grantee, or the grantee can decide to cease locating on the tower. So what are we looking for in a grantee? Well, we know that there are 2 issues facing Ohioans when trying to access high-speed internet, that of availability and affordability. This grant seeks to tackle both of these issues simultaneously. We are looking for grantees who will have the farthest reach with the fastest speeds at the lowest prices. Let me break down the scoring criteria to explain in greater detail what we are looking for. Speeds. To be an eligible applicant, you must be offering speeds to customers that meet or exceed the federal minimum, which, as I said, is currently 25 megabits per second download speed and 3 megabits per second upload speed. We will not be accepting applications for slower speed, but this is a floor and not a ceiling. Providing a range of speeds is encouraged. Technology. We want to know the range at which you can anticipate providing the 25/3 service and are asking for you to give an overview of the technology you're using to accomplish this. We are technology neutral. We just want to know how far your reach might be if you are the winning applicant for the grant. And price. This project is hoping to tackle both availability and affordability. We are asking the price point for the lowest tier service that still meets the federal definition of high speed and factoring that into our scoring criteria. You can have multiple different tiers of service, and you can have multiple different price points on those tiers of service, but we want to know what the price is for the lowest tier that meets the federal definition. And we will be factoring that into all of those things together in making determinations as to which grantee wins which towers. So how long will it take for us to award a winner? Right now, we are anticipating scoring the applications within 30 days of submissions, which as of right now is April 2nd of this year, which means we should be awarding grantees in early May. Now, before we get to questions you may have, I want to walk through the different grant components. So to begin with, you will need to provide the name, address, primary contact, and a brief overview of your company. Anything you think is relevant that will help us get to know you as a provider. We are also asking to know your current service territory, as well as your project team and their qualifications. Now with service territory, you can be general. It doesn't need to be a specific street addresses. You can provide us with a shapefile. You can just provide us with the areas that you're in, or even if you want to look at it from a county perspective. We just want to get an understanding of where you are today and how this will fit into the service territory that you already have. For administrative and financial information, we are looking for 1 year of audited financials, or if you do not have that, 1 year of reviewed and compiled financials. We are also looking for a copy of your customer service agreement. And finally, we are looking for your project plan. What is your experience in providing wireless internet service? How do you intend to use the MARCS towers in providing internet services to the area? What's the minimum speed you're offering? And again, understand that we will not be granting any one tower if the speeds are below 25.3. How many speeds will you make available? What is the maximum speed you anticipate? And what are the costs of the minimum and maximum speed? And if you know it, what is the weight load you anticipate for the technology you plan on using, so that we can start making determinations as to whether that will be factored into an additional engineering analysis needed by the Department of Administrative Services. Now, I want to be clear, these components are not meant to be a hindrance to any applicant. If there is a reason you cannot comply with something that we have requested, you can please put it in the chat box now so we can address it as a question and consider making alterations to the application. I also want to make an offer that you can email the Broadband Ohio at development.ohio.gov if you have any specific questions as well, and we will go ahead and add them into the FAQ that is available online. At this time, I would like to address any questions that we have in the chat box. I will be reviewing them really quickly and asking them. We have one so far. The question is, will this be expanded outside of the pilot area? And the answer is yes. Ultimately, more MARCS towers will become available. There is actually a team within the Department of Administrative Services, the Department of Development and Innovate Ohio, that is working on what our next steps will be in providing additional towers out to be available for people to co-locate on. I will give it a moment. Feel free now to type any questions you may have into the chat box. Yes, the next question is this presentation available to everyone? Yes, we will make sure that this presentation is available on the website so that you can go ahead and see the presentation from the website. So I'm sorry. There's another chat coming in from another place as well. So that is, we will make this presentation available. All right. Can we bring up a map of the locations right now so we can see it? I will ask Rick or Katrina if you have the map, if you could get the map up and ready, we can have you share your screen, or if you want to email it to Patrick, and then Patrick can post it. If one of you could do that right now, we can show you what the map is of the locations. Do you guys, I think Rick and Katrina, you have a map of the locations, is that correct?
Checking.
If we do not
have it, it's a matter of finding it in a timely manner here for you. We could put that map out there on the site.
Yes,
Peter,
we will do that.
To you.
That sounds great. We will make the map available. I apologize that we don't have it up right now. That is something that I should have thought of, but we will make sure that it is available on the site. So the next question is, how does this grant program interact with the Agile Networks Agreement to use the MARCS towers? It will not interfere with the Agile Networks Agreement to use the MARCS towers. They have a separate and distinct agreement from this. These two should not interfere with one another. They will coexist. So there is nothing that prevents Agile from continuing to use the MARCS towers, and this is just the state of Ohio using the MARCS towers ourselves, and after defeasing them, having the capability to have everything up and running on our own. So there is a quick question. Is there a timeline to complete the project work or an expiration of grant funding? So it's a great question. So the grant funds will kick in once you actually have your service available. We are asking that you have your service available over the course of the next 2 years. And then once that service is available, once you actually are providing services to the community, that's when we will start tracking the 5 years. Let's see. I'm getting a few other questions. Will any other state assets be opened up for use along with the MARCS towers, i.e. right-of-way, land, etc.? That is a great question. As of right now, if there was something else that you may need, if you want to put it into your application request, I would very much be willing to consider that. It will depend on each of the locations. Right now, right now it is the tower itself that we are providing. Not any other assets, but that doesn't mean that we wouldn't be willing to talk about what you might need in addition. So if there is an additional need, I would encourage you to put it into your project plan, and then we can consider that and see if it's something that we can accommodate going forward with the applications. So what kind of coverage radius is anticipated or projected around each location? So we kind of back of the napkin to everything. So we anticipated between maybe 1 mile and 2 miles, especially if you were going to be using CBRS technology to be able to provide internet out to folks. If that's not how far you can go, that's great. If you can go further, that's even better. But that's kind of what we were thinking about. We know that these locations, because they already have some limited broadband capability, we know that there are some geographic limitations and some other things that might make it harder to utilize some of the technology. So we don't have set as a definition of how far you need to go to be able to obtain the grant. We are willing to hear from you, because you're the experts, as to how far you think you'll be able to have that reach go. Question, is there a scoring rubric for proposals? The answer is I do not have one to share yet, but once we have created it and finalized it, we can put it on the website. The three major components really are: how far out do you think you can go? What are your speeds that you're going to be able to provide? And then the important one will be, what is the price for the low tier speed that you have at 25.3? Or if your low tier is 50 and 5, or whatever it happens to be, whatever your tiers are, what is the tier for what is the lowest, the price for the lowest tier going forward? Because those are the three really important things to us. And like I said, don't take 25.3 as that's the only speed you're supposed to offer. We want you to offer as fast as you can go, and at the price points you can go. If you have 100 megabit per second service, you're completely we will make sure that we have that. Those are the things that we're looking for the most part. And like I said, you can go. We want to know how fast you can possibly go. I'm sorry, I keep getting distracted because more things are coming in. But those are the three main parts of the rubric. So.
Hey, Peter, I did find the maps. I can go ahead and display them if you want.
Sure, that would be great. And if you want to have we can email the maps directly to everyone as well. But Rick, if you can throw it up there, that would be great.
Okay.
I think Patrick may have to stop presenting, and then that way you can.
Okay. So it looks like I can only share the one at a time.
Oh, that's fine. If you want to do one at a time, that's
Do
fine.
you see them both?
Yes, we see them both.
Okay. And again, the specifics are out there on the website already. This
Yes.
is just, some push pin stars where the towers are.
That's great. And the website does have the specific latitude and longitude as well as heights of each of these towers.
And I'll email those over to you, Peter, to be able to put out there on the site as well.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. So a question has come in. How are the lease rates determined after the initial 5-year rent period? Right now, we have seen that this is, as we've said before, the value of this project. The reason we had put it at $5,000 per month is because we had factored in what it would cost to actually build the tower. If you wanted to build a tower to be able to use, plus some of the operations and maintenance. What we are anticipating right now is once we get past the first 5 years that we'll be looking at what a market rate would be to be on the tower. However, understanding that some of the people that are interested in doing this are wireless internet service providers, and some of them and more local, we want to make sure that we are working with you to be able to make determinations. So we have not finalized the rates for the 5 years, what it will be at the end of 5 years, and we will be negotiating with the grantees that are winners as to what those rates will be, so that we don't result in making someone have to get off the tower if they're providing good services.
I'm going to pass the screen back over to Patrick.
Perfect. All right, I got another. Is there a timeline to complete project work or an expiration of grant funding? Our current timeline for completing work is if you receive the grant, we want you to have your technology up and on the towers within 2 years, and then the grant funding will go for the next 5 years after that. So let's say you get it up by December 1st of this year, then you would have 5 years from that December 1st for your the free space on the tower. If you can't get it on the tower until March 1st of next year, then you have 5 years from that. If you can't get it up within the next 2 years, if you can't get it on there within the next 2 years, we'll have to communicate with you as to what to do, because we want it to be up and running over the course of the next 2 years. So if you can't get your technology on the tower within the next 2 years, you would otherwise have you might not be eligible for the grant. Can providers offer a tier lower than 25.3 as long as they also offer 25.3? I will answer that as to yes, you can offer a tier lower than 25.3. There's nothing precluding you from offering like a 15.1, but we will only consider the range, the speed, or the range and the price at the 25.3 price point. So if you're applying for the grant and you have like a 15.1 or even a 10.1 speed, that's fine. Just tell us what the range of the 25.3 service is, as well as the price point for the 25.3 service. There will be, how many grant winners will there be? There will at least, we are hoping to have, right now we're looking at it as a 1 grant winner per tower. That is the anticipation right now. If we get some fantastic submissions, we might consider having more than 1 grantee per tower, but as of right now, the idea here was to have 1 grantee per tower. Which is why, with what I was saying before, you are more than welcome to apply for a single tower, for 2 towers, for any number between 1 and 6. But we will be considering if there is someone who wants all 6 towers and you may only want 1 or 2 towers, they may have a little bit of an advantage just because they're actually going to take all of the towers. That doesn't, but the anticipation again is that you actually do what you say on all 6 towers. We want to make sure that you're actually going to take the time to be on the towers and actually put up the technology. So do not apply for all 6 if you have no intention of using the other towers. Please just apply for the towers that you have an intention of using. All right, are there any other questions? I see one coming in. Do we have a priority schedule or a preference? Not at this time. So we don't have any priority schedule or preference for which towers people take. We really want to get all of them taken. If only if 5 of them get taken and the 6th one doesn't, we'll understand that one might need a little bit extra help. So but we don't have there's nothing for us about a priority schedule or a preference where we will, we're like, these are the ones that have to be taken. Question is, how were these 6 towers chosen? Great question. So we wanted to make sure that we used some towers in the Appalachian region, especially in some areas that we knew that we didn't have as much robust service for. We also needed to make sure that they were towers in areas that were both on state-owned land and our state-owned towers, because with the MARCS towers, we have some that are state-owned but not on state-owned land. There are some that we lease that are not on state-owned land, and there are some that we lease that are on state-owned land. And there were other considerations to be made for the utilization of those towers. Scioto County is a county that we knew had been asking for some help, and we wanted to have more than one county with towers, but we also wanted them to be contiguous. So when we looked at Scioto County, it was a good fit because it's an Appalachian region that had 4 fully owned state towers on state-owned land. And then Jackson County was a contiguous county that also had 2 state-owned towers on state-owned land. And so that is how the sites were chosen. And again, as this is a pilot project, we just kind of had to have conversations internally. Many of the other Appalachian regions don't have towers on state-owned land, which made it very difficult for us to, in this first round, to be able to offer those towers out to folks. And Katrina and Rick, I don't know if you have anything else to add on that point.
No, as well said. When we lease land for a tower to be on, the landowner, is going to have to get involved, and it would just complicate matters for a pilot grant program like this. So we wanted to work everything out with towers where there wouldn't be all those unknown factors.
Great. All right. Do the towers have existing fiber to them now? Rick and Katrina, I will let you guys answer that question.
So off the top of my head, I can just say that we have dual redundant paths for the MARCS purposes. Some of those paths are microwave, some are fiber. We'd have to look at each tower individually to determine that. As somebody mentioned earlier, Agile provides our backhaul, and we could find out that for you if need be. I'm sure there's ways that, depending on the equipment you're going to put up, are there other strands of fiber for you to lease, dark fiber, or would you be able to carve out some bandwidth in existing backhaul connections? Those are discussions that would have to come up depending on what kind of equipment you're going to install and what your needs and rate of service and everything would need to be.
All right, are there any other questions? This is a fantastic conversation. I really am appreciating all of you participants that are asking questions. Thank you so much, because this is helping us. Any local permit concerns? Not that we know of, and the reason I say not that we know of is because since these are fully state-owned towers on fully state-owned land, you shouldn't need anything else. Rick, Katrina, I don't think that there's any. Can you think of anything that might be a local permit concern?
I can't think of anything.
Nor can I. I mean, because the tower's already there, you don't have to
Right.
worry about any wildlife concerns.
Yeah, and then the environmental stuff is already addressed.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
So you should be good. Well, again, that's why we see these as such a great asset, because they're already built and exist. So you don't have to go through any of the process of getting any of that underlying stuff done. All right, there's a question as to, are those backhaul prices negotiated as one-offs, or is there a price schedule for applicants to plan their price points backhaul with Agile, that is? That's a good question. Do we, Rick and Katrina, if you don't have that answer today, we can put it in the FAQ maybe next week, but do you have any indication as to what backhaul prices might be off the towers?
I do not.
Yeah, I can't speak to that
Prices
either.
from Agile for MARCS were negotiated because they're offering, we're getting the backhaul from them on approximately 350 sites altogether, all over the state. So individual tower pricing for backhaul, I'm not sure. You might want to even check around and see if you can get backhaul from Verizon or Spectrum or anybody else. Even, shop around. I would say part of your process would be knowing what would be available for you for backhaul besides Agile.
One question that wasn't asked that I'm actually going to answer right now is we moved the original application date back, and some people have asked us why we did that. We did have one. We had some companies who had asked if we would be willing to move it back, because again, this is such a new process that we agreed to do that. And also that's why we did this pre-bidders conference, pre-grantees conference. Because we wanted to make sure that everyone had an opportunity to ask questions, because again, this is new for us, as it is for you, and we want to do this collaboratively. We did not want to just put something out there and that isn't useful. So this is an opportunity. If, like I said, even if it's not in the chat box, feel free to email us. Patrick, if you could go back to the first slide, I think it has our contact information on it. We want to make sure that you, oh, there you go, that's perfect. We want to make sure that you have an opportunity to ask questions, or if there's something about the application that doesn't make sense, or something about the application you can't fill out, we are very open to as many applicants as possible. So if there's something that you can't accommodate and you still want to apply, please just email us and explain, like, hey, I'm submitting the grant application, but I couldn't do insert whatever. With the one caveat being, it has to be 25.3. That is the one non-negotiable aspect of this. But if there's something else in the application that you need to talk about or you want us to consider, please email us and let us know so that we can get as many applications as possible, because we want this to be a success. We want to work with you to make this a success. And the Lieutenant Governor is very excited about this project. We're very excited about this project. And we just wanted to put a few towers out to see what people might be able to do with them in areas that we knew needed some help. So that's kind of what we're trying to accomplish, and we really want to be partners with you moving forward on this. All right, so the question is, what is the thinking behind piloting, partnering with other ISPs when Agile's already at the MARCS towers, i.e. why isn't Agile serving these customers? So I have a two-part answer to that, and then I will want Craig and Rick and Katrina to fill in for that. The two-part answer is, this is a last mile partnership. We want you to be able to provide last mile connectivity to the folks out in the areas. And Agile is not necessarily a last mile provider. They are more of a middle mile provider. And even though the Agile is on the MARCS towers, we wanted this to be a direct agreement with the Department of Administrative Services, so that you knew that you were working with us directly and not necessarily with someone in the middle. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that was this program. We just wanted, because we have defeased the MARCS towers and taken the time to do that, and actually even save the state money when during the defeasement, it saved the state money. We wanted to, this was a project that we wanted to undertake ourselves to see how it would be successful. And so Rick and Katrina and Craig, I will pause here and see if you have anything else to add to that.
No, I think you're spot on, Peter. You know, we were looking to partner with some last mile providers and hopefully make a difference in those areas of the state that are lacking broadband.
And I'm not sure that I can add anything to that, except that it just makes things more competitive.
Exactly. Another question, if we know of similar areas that we should look at next, email, yes, please do. You could email the BroadbandOhio at development.ohio.gov, which is on the screen right now. Please email us if there's towers that you are interested in that aren't necessarily in these 6. We would love to have those conversations. If the requirement at a state or federal level for high-speed internet increases above the current 25.3, would a provider be required to increase their offered rates to meet the new criteria? No. If we're in, because you'll be agreeing with us that it's 25.3 today and moving forward. So if it goes beyond 25.3, let's say a year from now, that it goes beyond 25.3, your agreement will have already been for 25.3. At the end of the grant period, we may have a conversation about increasing speeds, but to remain eligible for a new grant if we are going to renew. But you will, if it changes between now, in the 5-year period, if it changes to 25.3, we made the agreement with you to be 25.3. We're not going to ask you to increase speeds at that time. If you can, though, that would be fantastic. So don't get me wrong. If you offer, if it goes to 50 and 5 and you already offer 50 and 5, then that's fantastic. Are there any other questions? Or have I missed any? I'm double checking. I've answered that already. I'll give it another minute. This has been a fantastic question and answer session. Thank you all so much for participating. I do appreciate it. But we're not over yet. So if you have any more questions, please feel free to ask. Someone said, thank you for the information. You are very welcome. I hope that this was helpful to all of you who are considering being a part of this program. And again, this is a much more of an informal conference, and not that it's an informal process, but feel free to email us. When we get questions, we will answer your questions and we will update the FAQs to reflect all the questions we've received. This is not like a typical RFP. This is much more of a grant style. So we don't want you to think that you can't. This is not, you can feel free to ask questions and things like that, and we'll keep answering them all the way up until the deadline. All right, well, it is 11:45. We haven't gotten a question now for the last 60 seconds or 2 minutes or so. So I'm gonna take this opportunity to kind of sign us off, that seems to be all the questions we have. I want to thank my colleagues at the Department of Administrative Services for joining me today. I want to thank Patrick, who is my assistant chief, for joining me. I do want to also thank our technical person, is Cody Lenfest, who has done a great job of getting this all up and running, helping me with questions and recording it and everything. And thank you to all of the attendees for being here to discuss this opportunity. We look forward to reviewing your applications. Remember, they are due on April 2nd. And I hope that you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you all so much. We will be stopping the recording now, and we'll be sharing, like I said, we will take the opportunity to post this on the website, and we'll also be writing out the questions and making sure that we have them answered in the FAQ. So thank you all so much for participating.